and I will be the trainer for training you in QA. So if you're not able to hear, please raise your hand or write on the chat section. We'll see what we can do. And if you're not able to hear, see the screen, which is being shown, please let me know so that we can do something about it, whatever is possible from our side. So I believe you are able to hear me and see my screen. Okay, and let's start with the QA. The QA is one of the most important sections of your IT industry or the information technology industry. Let us go with the agenda part. Self-introduction, as I told you, my name is Kaushik and I have around about 15 years of experience in the QA domain, and I have done several kind of projects which are basically into banking, into your insurance, into your travel and leisure, and in your financial sector. So I had entered as a fresher in QA, and right now I'm managing a team of around about 65 people in the company where I'm working. I have done around about 19 projects in my entire career, which is spanning for the last 15 years, and I've seen the growth of, or the how do I say it, basically how has the QA domain taken an important part, taken an important seat in your IT industry. So that's my introduction. The agenda will be something like this. Who can become a software tester or a quality analyst? That is the first thing. What are the criteria for you to become a quality analyst or a software tester? Then what are the phases that we have in the QA training? And how do we basically do placements in US? That is the next part. And the third part is, what is the current market trend that you need to have in order to get calls after you have made your resume and floated your resume in the market? And then a brief introduction on what is software testing, and what will be, which teams will be involved in your software testing or developing rather a quality software. And then we'll go about why testing is important. Okay, and what are the features of the quality software that we're supposed to have, and then what are the types of testing, in which particular type of testing we would be involved, and what is our role in the testing domain. And then the last part will be a small synopsis on your SDLC, the software development lifecycle. So I hope I'm clear in the agenda part. So let us see who can become a tester and a quality analyst. Okay. So let us move to the next slide. So typically, it is not a domain which requires a lot of rocket science. Any basic knowledgeable guy who has basic knowledge in their everyday life and can implement logic in your everyday life can become a software tester or a quality analyst. Now, it is not required that you have to be you have to have a technical background, or you need to be a diploma holder, or you need to be specialized in testing in order to enter the industry. The industry requires certain stuff like basic logics and the process that is required to conduct your quality assurance or software testing inside the industry. So a person with logic and understanding of the process of testing can become a quality analyst or a software tester. Now, we have a track record of placing people who are not from the technical field, other than the non-technical background. For example, your economics, majors in economics, or majors in your English, or majors in your history, or your pure science. We have been successful in placing people in the IT industry with other in the testing domain. And the only thing that is required for a person is to apply basic logics that all of us actually apply in everyday life. So everyday life we have certain logics to be applied to lead our life in a smooth manner. The same logics if you can apply to the testing domain or the quality analysis that we do for a particular application with certain processes involved, you can become a software tester or a quality analyst. Next part is person who uses computer and understanding to use an application. So every day, every one of us who is there in this particular session uses computer knowingly or unknowingly. So everybody has an email address, everybody has access to their accounts in an email. So what we do is we use computers on an everyday basis, and if we understand the usage of the computer, and for example the usage of the application, let's say everybody uses a Gmail application. Okay, if we can understand using that particular application, let's say Gmail, you can become a tester, I can become a tester also. The only difference between end user using the application and me being a tester using the application is that as a tester, I will use the application for the purpose of finding problems in the application. That is why I am being paid as a tester. And as an end user, if I find problems, I will not use the application. I will have inhibitions in order to use an application which has problems as an end user. Now, as a tester, the thin line of difference is that I am being paid to find problems in the application. That is the difference between the end user and a tester. The tester gets paid for finding problems in the application, whereas the end user stops using the application when there is a problem in the application that he or she is using. So any person and everybody in this particular part of the world, or everybody uses some kind of applications through computers. It can be either the news website, or you can generally go to your email applications like your Gmail or Yahoo or MSN. Everybody uses that. The only difference lies in the fact that when you start using the application with the thought process of finding problems in the application, you become a tester, and that is what you are paid for. That is the only difference that we have. A very thin line of difference between a tester and an end user. Third part, people who find problems in the application users. For example, as I told you, if I am able to find problems in the application, I become a tester, I am paid for that. That is how the testing has been made. As an end user, if I find problems, I will stop using the application. Okay. Now, how do the question arises is, as a tester, how would I find problems? Now, any application that is developed would be developed with certain requirements. For example, I want to make, I basically want to, let's say I want to make juice. I will need certain requirements in terms of what is the kind of juice that I want to make, what is the kind of fruit that I will be using for making the juice, how much amount of sugar will be required, how much amount of mint will be required if I am using mint. So that portion of how much usage of water, how much usage of fruit or sugar or your salt in making a juice are the requirements for making a juice. Similarly, when I make an application, I need to have requirements. For example, everybody uses a Gmail application. Okay, the Gmail application would require what would require you to have a username and password in order to check your inbox. Okay, so that is why the Gmail application has provided you a login page, and the login page looks like this. The login page looks like this, which has a username and a password like this. Username will be defined in your email, password has to be defined in the password field. Then you have to click on the sign in button to open up your inbox. So definitely when I use this particular application, as an end user, I know that I have to have this login page. I need to give the correct username to which I have registered in the Gmail. I have to give the correct password to which I have registered in Gmail, and then click on the sign in button. And then it opens the inbox page. That is, as an end user, I use the application. As a tester, what will I do? I will try to check up if this login page is opening with this particular URL or not. This is the URL. So my perception of being a tester is that I will be pessimistic in testing the application with the data required to use the application. So what is the data required to open up the login page? This is the data required. accounts.gmail.google.com. So this is the data required, or the URL required to open the login page of my Gmail. As a tester, my perception will be to find out if this data is opening up the login page or not. First. Second of all, if I give any other kind of data in the URL, for example, if I write down, let's say, account.google.com, instead of accounts with S at the end, I write account.google.com. That's a different data. Now with that data called account.google.com, am I able to get the login page or not? If I am able to get the login page with account.google.com, that means there is a problem with the application. The problem is that the application should not open the login page with the URL account.google.com. It should only open up the URL when we write accounts with S at the end .google.com. That is a perception of the tester to test the application with the motive of finding problems. And problems are equal to nothing but bugs. Yeah, I will repeat it, Ruchi. It's something like, as an end user, I generally do what? I basically use and open the Gmail application. How do I open the Gmail application? I open the browser, and then I give what? accounts.google.com. This is the URL that I give to open my Gmail login page as an end user, I'm saying. So if I do that, I get this particular login page like this. Okay. So if I do that, I'm going to get a Gmail page like this. This is what the Gmail login page will look like for the first time after you have registered inside the Gmail at an end user. So what I'm supposed to give accounts.google.com, and this opens up. And when the login page opens up, it has certain fields. These are fields. This is an email field. This is a password field. This is a sign-in button. These are fields present in the login. So as an end user, I'm just going to open this and use the application to go to my inbox, check my emails, and then log out. If the login page does not open, as an end user, I get irritated and I close the application. Now let us look at this particular thing from the tester's perspective. Now what the tester will do is specifically find out problems in the application. Now how he or she will find problems in the application? He or she will do what? He or she will open the browser and try to give, instead of accounts with S, they will put account.google.com and then try to find out if it is still opening the login page or not. If it is not opening the login page, that means there is no problem with the application. If with account without the S, .google.com opens up the login page, that means there's a problem. This is the perception of a tester for testing the application. So the tester will always try to find out what is the correct data to open up the login page. Similarly, if I give the incorrect data, that means an incorrect URL, is it still opening the login page? Similarly, other perspective of a tester, now with correct username and password, if I give the correct username and password, okay, is it going to the inbox or not? So it is going to the inbox. you see that it is going to the inbox if I give a correct username and password. Similarly, if I give an incorrect username or an incorrect password, so I can give an incorrect username or an incorrect password, or the other situation can be incorrect username and password. Both can be incorrect, or one of them can be incorrect, either email or password. And still, am I able to log into the application? That is the perception of the tester, because the tester's job is to find problems, and problems are nothing but bugs in the application. So a tester is paid for finding bugs in the application. For example, if this application shows you the inbox page after giving an incorrect email and a correct password, or a correct email and an incorrect password, or an incorrect email and an incorrect password, if it shows you the inbox page for all these three situations, that means this application is not following the requirements. What is the requirement? The requirements are nothing but certain documents. Now, these documents, called requirement documents, specifies under what rules or under what conditions the application is supposed to work. Similarly, for this Gmail login page, there are certain rules that are defined in the requirement documents. I, as a tester, am going to test that are those rules being adhered in the application or not. That is why I will do testing with positive data and negative data. Okay. Similarly, I will also try to define the rules that are defined in the requirement documents. If I can define the rules and find problems, I am a good tester. From the application's perspective, if I can define the rule and still use the application has problems. That means the application has bugs. That means the application is not adhering to the requirement docs. I hope I'm clear in that, Ruchi. So going back to our slide, as we say, people who can find problems in the application. So as a tester, I'm supposed to find problems, or I'm supposed to find bugs in the application, because problems are equal to bugs. And bugs do crop up in the application when the application does not adhere to the requirement documents. Okay. So that is what my motive is as a tester. So any person who can have that ability to find problems in the application can become a software tester. The only thing is that you have to have a pessimistic approach when you test the application. Please do not be pessimistic in your life. Pessimism is required for you to test the application. Okay, that's the third point. Going to the fourth point, person who have clear communications, you do not require to have very high-fi communication in order to express your problems or the kind of solutions that you want to give for an application when the application has problems. You need to have clear-cut communications in order to communicate with your colleagues, in order to communicate with your managers, or in order to communicate with your client. Because testing requires you to understand the process. See, if you can communicate the process that you have understood, if you can communicate what is the problem in the application that you are facing as a tester, or you can communicate what are the bugs that you have found out in the application to your colleagues, to your managers, or to your clients, you are also a tester. So definitely you should have clear-cut communication. Why communication is important? Because testers as a whole needs to have a lot of meetings with their colleagues or with their managers or with their clients. So whatever problems that the tester has found out in the application, that has to be communicated properly to the client or to the managers or to their colleagues. If they are not able to communicate properly, how would manager understand, oh, this is the problem with the application? How would a client understand, oh, this is the kind of testing being done and the testers are doing a good job? You have to prove them with your communication. Third, you have to also communicate with your colleague to make them understand, oh, this is the problem in the application, and then the colleagues can be your developers who will have the facility to rectify the problem. So if your colleagues are your developers and you are not able to communicate properly, your colleagues who are developers will not understand the problem that you have found out in the application. If you are not able to understand the problem as a developer, okay, how would you rectify the problem? The rectification will always be carried out by the development side. So it's something like the testers finds out the problem, the tester has to communicate the problem to the development side, okay, and the development side has to rectify the problem by rectifying the codes. Okay, that is how, and that is why it is important for us to have clear-cut communication, and everybody can communicate properly out here. And next point is, any person of any graduate, be it a non-technical background, be it a pure science or a pure English honors or economics majors, whatever it is, anybody can become a tester with any kind of graduation. Only thing required are basic logics. Person who can use a computer, understands to use the application, person who can find problems in the application, and who has a clear-cut communication can become a software tester or a quality analyst. That's that particular slide. Coming back to the next slide, that is your, what are different phases of your quality assurance or the different phases of your training in your testing. So if you see this particular diagram out here, you will be able to find out what are the phases that we will go through. Okay. Now the first phase that we are going to go through is manual testing. Okay. Why it is called manual testing? Because manually we'll be testing the application. As I showed you some time back, the Gmail application, correct? Now what I did is manually open the browser and manually typed in the URL to log on to get the login page of my Gmail, and then manually I have to type the username, manually I have to type the password, and then manually I have to click on the sign in button in order to get the inbox. This process of opening up the inbox through manual approach is nothing but manually testing the application. But yes, when I do a manual testing, I would definitely feed negative data and positive data. For example, positive data is what? Accounts.google.com. Accounts with s.google.com. That's a positive data, and I know that with positive data, it should open the login page. So I'm going to check that with accounts.google.com, am I getting the login page? That's a positive data. Secondly, manually what I will do again, I will get account without the s.google.com. If with that URL, which is a negative data, is it still opening the login page or not? That's manual testing. Now, in manual testing, you have to understand processes involved in testing. That means, what are the kind of processes that you will have in manual testing? How would you conduct manual testing? What are the different approaches to do manual testing? How would we be finding out bugs in the application? How do we report bugs in the application? How do we write down test cases? Okay. What are the techniques involved for your test cases? Now I understand at this point of time, all these jargons becomes very much difficult for you to understand. Okay. As we go through the course, we will be taking each and every jargon that are used in the testing domain or in the IT industry as far as testing is concerned, and then you will be able to understand it. At this point of time, what I am trying to tell you is the first phase is nothing but understanding the processes of testing, implementing the processes in your practical approach, where we will be writing practically how to write test cases. That is what is the job of a tester. How would you write your test cases? How would you basically find out bugs? Okay, and how would you report bugs in your bug tracking tools? Okay, how would you report bugs to your colleagues, to your clients, or to your managers? That is what is required for us. And that is why we need to have a lot of understanding in the manual approach. Okay. Now at this point of time, I don't know if you're able to understand. If you have some problems in understanding, please let me know. I'm unmuting you guys so that you can ask me any questions until now, whatever we have covered. So I'll unmute you guys. So when I finish up this particular slide, then I will try to ask you about your background and then try to understand what have you understood until now. If you have some problems, I will be able to communicate with those problems, might be able to solve those. So that is the first phase that we are going to go through.
Excuse me, Kaushik.
Yeah, please.
Kaushik, actually I have a quick question.
I didn't get your name. Can you just introduce
my
yourself?
My name is Kishore.
Yeah, Kishore.
Yes, Kishore. Actually, my doubt is actually previous slide you said minimum graduation is important, right? Any graduation.
Any graduation.
Yeah.
Fine.
After graduation, I have nearly 10 to 11 years gap is there. Means I worked in some different platforms. Okay, if I want to right now I am start to IT. I'm trying to look a job in IT field.
Okay.
Okay. How to cover my these 10 years, 10 to 11 years gap? So means how many years I have to make my resume and how to cover that.
So basically, there have been people who are let's say 50, 55 years old who have done Java programming 20 years back and wants to enter the industry. This is the best way to enter the industry to get you better. That's why QA is important, and this is the easiest way to enter the industry. Secondly, regarding the gap that you have, so we will try when we finish up the training procedure and the training course, we will have something like your resume building. During the resume building process, we'll sit down with you, understand what you have done for the last 10 years, and then based on the 10-year experience that we have, we will try to make that resume by asking a lot of questions. That will be one-to-one interaction. So we do have consultants in US through which you would get jobs, and you would be helping out for you to get a job out there through our consultants in the best. So based on the requirement of that particular job, okay, we would be molding you so that the requirements can be matched with your with the course that we're having, and then place you at different company levels. So definitely at the resume building procedure, we will basically sit down with you at a one-to-one basis and then understand what you have done for the last 10 years and how we can cover up your 10 years logically in order to get you a job. Is it clear? Sure.
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah.
Tell me, Kaushik.
Is it clear?
Yeah. Fine. Thank you.
So, coming back to the second phase, so once we have completed our first phase, that's precisely your manual testing, that we learn the processes of testing, implementation of the processes practically out there by writing down test cases and finding out bugs and reporting bugs, then we are good enough to go to the next level of your testing, that's your automation. Okay, it can be either automation testing or database testing. So generally we will go through your automation because that is what the trend is right now. And automation, we will be using something known as Selenium. Selenium is an open source web application automation tool. Okay, and it's hot in the market. The thing is that the difference, you will feel a lot of difference when your resume has both manual testing as well as automation, because if you have both these stuffs in your resume, the number of calls will increase first of all, and the gravity of your resume will also be much more. And Selenium being a hot cake in the market, it's very much hot in the market. It's very much hot in the market, and it's basically used for your automating the manual process. Ruchi, I will come back to what is Selenium. Selenium is an automation tool. Now, as I told you, phase one would involve the manual testing. So when we test the application, how do we do it? When we test the application, what do? We actually test it by going to Google manually. What we do, this is what we are doing. So what we do is nothing but we open up your Gmail manually like this. Okay, click on the sign button, and this is how we manually open the Gmail, and then we give the username manually, and then we give the password like this manually. Correct? This is manually we do it, and manually we test it with negative data and positive data. How about doing the same stuff with automation approach? That means with your automated tools, like Selenium is an automated tool. It belongs to a company called ThoughtWorks. It's an open source tool. You don't have to buy it. You can just download it and start using it. How would Selenium as an automation tool help you? For example, if I want to open the browser, I don't have to open the browser by clicking on the Google Chrome icon that I have in my desktop. I can basically write codes in Selenium through which it will open the browser automatically. It will type in the URL automatically out here. It will automatically type in the username out here. It will automatically type in the password out here. It will automatically click on the sign in button without any manual intervention. That is what you mean by automation. That is what we will learn in your phase 2, which is nothing but you will be learning the phase 2, that is nothing but your automation testing. So we would be doing automation testing with Selenium, in which whatever we do manually will convert it to an automatic procedure through the tool, and that is your Selenium tool. Okay. And why Selenium? Why we have chosen Selenium for training? Very simple. We go according to market demands. So everybody, all of us out here is basically wants to take up this training to ultimately get a job. So you need to see, you need to be very much specific at our end, what kind of training would we like to have in order to get jobs. Definitely manual testing would fetch you a job, but added advantage will be automation testing with Selenium, which is hot cake in the market. A lot of openings are coming for Selenium with manual testing. Okay, why? Because this has become easier for the QA guys in order to automate the process of your manual approach, which we learn in your phase 1, that is nothing but manual testing. Secondly, why Selenium? It's an open source tool. You don't have to buy it. There are other automation tools also there in the industry. Okay, like your QTP. It's a commercial tool. You have to buy it. Why would companies spend money in order to buy automation tools if there are already free tools available? So Selenium is a free tool. It's a powerful tool to convert your manual testing approach to an automated approach. It supports your web application, and 98% of the applications developed worldwide are web-based, and Selenium supports web-based applications. Definitely, if you learn Selenium in your phase 2, that's in your automation testing, you learn Selenium, is going to add an advantage for you to get more calls and more interviews. And plus, your resumes will be selected by the human resource or HRs of the company because you have an added advantage that you know Selenium too. That is why in phase 2, in the phase 2 approach of testing, we will be doing automation and we will be using the Selenium tool. So Ruchi, I believe you are able to understand. If you're not understanding, please let me know. I'm unmuting you guys again so that you can ask me any questions after now.
Unmuted. Hi Kaushik, I am Deepa.
Yeah, Deepa.
Kaushik?
Yeah, Deepa.
Yeah, I have a doubt. You talk about the automation testing. So in that, do we need to know any language as a prerequisite?
Yes. Yeah. Good question. We would be learning Java. Okay. Basically, when we start with Selenium, that's the phase 2, we would be learning Java. Okay, and Java will be, I will be teaching you so that you can understand Selenium. Because market demands you to know Selenium. A lot of people have applications on Java, like .NET. People get afraid of that. Please don't get worried. I take up with Java. I'll be picking up at the very, very basic level so that you understand that.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll be basically learning Java, and Java will be there. Java will be there so that we can learn Selenium after that. Seema, I believe you are not able to hear now echo now because there was a lot of echo disturbance. I was also trying to find out what is the problem. I said that when we learn Selenium, that's your phase 2, we'll be learning Selenium with Java, because that is what the market demands. And market demands you to learn Java, core Java rather, and core Java will be required for you so that you can understand Selenium. So when I take a phase 2, I'll first be starting with Java, and I know every one of us might be at the corner of our mind are very skeptical about learning languages. Okay, so I will teach you, I'll try to teach you Java as a very much layman terms, so that you understand it at a very basic level. Then after we learn Java, okay, core Java rather, not the enterprise level Java, core Java, then we will move towards Selenium. That will be a phase 2. Once we finish up our phase 2, then we can go for real-time projects, that is phase 3, that is implementation of your phase 1 and phase 2 inside your phase 3, okay, if required. So in both the approaches, that is your phase 1, that is manual testing, or phase 2, that is your automation, we will be having a lot of examples through which we will show you how to implement the processes that I have learned in a practical manner. Seema, yes, I am just seeing a question. You are a non-IT guy. Okay, let me unmute you so that I can listen to you. Yes, Seema.
So my question to you is that I'm a non-IT person and I have no prior programming knowledge. So if you're saying automation testing and you'll be teaching Java, so will I be able to understand the language, or whatever you'll teach us will suffice?
Yes. I know that a lot of people in this particular group are basically non-IT guys, or they have been working in the non-IT field, and I know that people are skeptical about this. This question will be asked. So I will teach you Java for a very layman term, at a very lower level, so that you understand it. So I'm not going to go very much fast in Java. I'm going to make you understand it in very layman terms, and then going to go up with other topics of your Java, which is required for your Selenium.
So whatever you, I'm sorry. So whatever you teach in Java will be sufficient for automation testing?
Yes, it will be sufficient for your automation testing, whatever we learn in Java.
Okay.
Absolutely sufficient for us. And definitely when I basically finish up this particular slide, I just want to hear some kind of introduction from you guys, so that I can understand what is the background of, so that I can help you out in your training. For example, I have a training batch. Completely, they're all housewives, and they're all from your non-IT fields. Okay, and we have come now to the situation in which they are learning Selenium. So if housewives with non-IT fields can learn Selenium, there are a lot of people out here who are from the same kind of background, or there are a lot of people who are from the IT background. They want to move towards QA as a domain. They might be in other domains of your IT. They want to move towards QA domain, or they might be in very much different domains which are not related with IT. They want to definitely move towards your IT field through the QA training. And I know with that perception that people will have this kind of skepticism. Now, how will I learn Java? I'm a non-IT guy. So please understand one particular thing, that nobody learns anything from your mother's womb. You have to learn it at this particular point. So I was never a technical guy. I also learned it with my own understanding. I did not have the means like you guys have, that somebody trains me and very layman terms trains me, then understanding. I had to slog on. I had to do a lot of hard work in order to become a technical guy right now by learning Java myself and then learning Selenium. That you will not find that particular problem, because whatever problems I have faced during my learning process, I will not like you to have that. And that is why when I teach you Java for your automation, I will teach you with the fact that I know that you guys might be from the non-IT background. Don't worry about that. We will go at a very, very layman pace, or layman pace rather, so that we can understand Java and then we can understand Selenium from that. I hope I'm clear in what I'm trying to convey. So coming back to this phase 3, so implementation of whatever we will learn in phase 1 and phase 2 would be done in phase 3. After phase 3 gets involved, we can go for the phase 4 part, in which we'll have interview preparations. Now, interview preparations, generally what I do is I basically have a mock interview where I place people among the trainees only, among the group who are getting trained, and people from the group are going to ask you questions, going to fire you questions. I can also fire you questions so that you can give answers, and if you do not know answers, you will be understanding what kind of answers to be given. And that is why mock interview is important, and that is why mock interview will be a very much important part of your phase 4. So phase 4 will involve us to basically go through mock interviews. There will be a couple of rounds of mock interviews. It can be in a group, it can be in a one-to-one basis. Okay, and mock interviews basically will give you confidence, because you would know what kind of questions are asked in the interview, and you would know that what kind of answers you would be given. You would be giving to the interviewer. Okay, so that is why it is important for you to go to the mock interviews round. And then we will have your resume preparation, where we will sit down with you on a one-to-one basis, understand what is the background that you have, and how can we make your resume so that you get calls and you clear up your interviews after the calls. And the calls will be coming through our consultants in the US. So we have a tie-up with a consultant in the US who would help out you in getting a job through the process of making you to sit down with your interviews, making it to sit down with your mock interviews, and then those consultants will call you to give you real-time interviews in front of your clients. So before the real-time interview happens, you already have gone through the process of mock interviews. You will already have confidence, or that is specifically a confidence building measure in order for you to actually go to the real-time process of giving interviews. Because a lot of people have fears about interviews, a lot of people have inhibitions about interviews. That is why we will have mock interviews, so that all those fears, inhibitions get out. So that's your the training part, what we will have in your QA. So that's specifically the phases that we'll have in the training. And then we go to the next slide, and what is the current market trend. The offers specifically are from the US market. Okay, and what are the market trends? That's what I wanted to discuss with you guys. Marketing is something like you should know manual testing. That is very important. That's specifically your phase 1. And why you should know? Because it basically is the foundation for you to enter the QA domain or enter the industry. So you want to enter the industry as a QA guy or a testing guy, you should know manual testing, because that's the foundation. Because the manual testing will teach you the processes and implement the processes practically. Once you know that, then automation is there with Selenium. You will get a boost, not only in your calls, number of calls that you get for your interview, you also get a boost in your CTCs. For example, if a manual tester, let's say you're getting a job as a manual tester and you get X amount of money as a CTC. CTC is nothing but cost to the company, which is on a yearly basis. So let's say you get X amount of money as a manual tester. If you know automation with Selenium, I'm very specific with Selenium because it's completely hot in the market, and US I'm seeing the trend that a lot of openings are there for QA with Selenium, manual testing with Selenium. So that is why our focus will be in Selenium with, as far as automation is concerned. So when you have your Selenium as a tool that you have learned and you put it in your resume, two things will happen. Much more calls will come, first. Secondly, if you are chosen, your CTC would be 3 times more than a manual tester. So for example, a manual tester gets X amounts of money. An automation guy with Selenium, if you know Selenium and you are selected, you will be getting 3x. Okay, and as a Selenium, we will be going through very specifically WebDriver, Selenium WebDriver, and using Java as the scripting language. Now Selenium has certain parts. One part is called Selenium IDE. IDE full form is Interface Development Environment. Okay. Another part is called Selenium WebDriver. And the third part is called Selenium Grid. We will be going to Selenium WebDriver because that is hot. And what is hot is the way through which you will get your job. Because that is the market demand, that is the market need, and will remain there for the next 10 years. So if you learn Selenium WebDriver right now, your career is going to go up the ladder for the next 10 years because the demand would be there for Selenium WebDriver for the next 10 years. That is what is the market demand in the US. Okay. Now, let me, before I go to the next slide, which speaks about your testing, what is software testing, I would just like to have a small introduction about yourselves, so that I can understand from which particular background you have come and how I can help you in your training and ultimately get you a job. That is what the motive is. So we will start with Brahmini. Brahmini, can you just introduce yourself so that I can understand your background? If you're able to hear me.
Hi, Kaushik. Yes.
Hi,
Kaushik. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. Like I'm from BTech Computer Science, but I don't have experience in this IT side.
Okay.
And so that's what I'm just planning to get into IT.
Okay. When did you finish your graduation, Brahmini?
Yeah, I finished my graduation in 2012.
Okay.
So I'm married, so I haven't been into that industry.
Absolutely no problem. Yeah. You are a computer science graduate, and it will not be difficult for you, not be difficult for anybody rather to understand this domain.
Yeah.
This is the easiest way. Okay. So don't get worried up. You already have done some kind of language when you have done your graduation.
Yes. Yes.
Computer science. So things will be easier for you. But I will make it sure that others who are not from the IT background, it becomes easy for them also. So thanks for the introduction, Brahmini. So let us go to now Deepa. Deepa, can I have your introduction, please?
Hi, Kaushik. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I am basically a BTech civil engineer.
Okay.
And I work for 5 years in the civil engineering field as design engineer.
Okay.
And now I thought of entering into IT field, and I think this is a better way to enter into that field as a QA tester at a graduate.
This is the easiest way. Okay, do not get worried up with civil engineering or how would I get a job in IT. Easiest way, even my wife is an economics graduate specifically. So economics major can get a job in QA. English major, English honors person can also get a job in US. And we have also placed him in IT. He's working right now in Capgemini. Okay. We have placed him in your IT. English honors guy is also going for IT domain. The only thing what you require, as I told you, is logics and implementation of how to do testing, the processes that you need to learn. That's all. And I will basically teach you from a very layman terms. Don't get worried out.
Okay.
Thanks for the introduction, Deepa. Let's go to Joycey right now. Joycey, are you there?
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Joycey.
Yeah, I'm a BCom BA graduate from Bombay University, and I had been working in administrative work for past 12 years. But then I'm a housewife now, so I've not been doing anything. So I thought like, do QA and get into this field, like, IT field.
You have chosen the right track actually. I don't know who has told you, Joyce, but it is the right track to enter the industry. QA is the most easiest way to enter the industry. And as I told you, you can be from any graduate. You can be, let's say, a graduate from any other field. If you have complete basic logics and you understand the process of testing, you can become a tester. You can enter the industry. It will not be a problem. It will absolutely not be a problem. So we will, I will make things easier for you.
Okay, and in this training I had one question, like, do we get hands-on training, like to do the debug, like how to find the bugs and other things like that?
Absolutely, Joyce. If I don't teach you that hands-on training, if I don't do that, if I only give you all those slides and only give you lectures, how would you understand it? Definitely, whatever I am giving a lecture, I will implement it practically so that you understand how to find out bugs, how to report bugs. How to find out bugs also requires you to understand how to write test cases for that. So what is a test case? What is bugs? How do you write down test cases? How do you report bugs? Will be done practically so that you understand it.
Okay, thank you, Kaushik. Yeah.
Welcome, Joseph. So we will move to the next person. Kishore, I just talked with you. Can I have your introduction, please?
Yes. Kaushik, hi Kaushik. Hi everyone. My name is Kishore. I am from right now I am in US. Actually, my background is BCom. I passed out in 2004. But from 2004 to I worked in different platforms. Means 5 years accounts field and 2 years some supervisor and 3 years in cine field. So I worked on different environment platforms. Even the last 5 months too, I am trying in administration side, VMware and Windows. But in last 4 months too, I am getting the calls and mails from vendors, but client calls are not scheduling. And but why I am not getting client calls means I learned only VMware and Windows, just one tool, but they are expecting from me minimum 8 to 9 tools. That is the reason QA is fit for me to get easy to get the job.
Absolutely, Kishore. This is the easiest way to get a job because, as I told you, a lot of non-technical guys who are BCom graduates, who are from your English honors. I have seen people from your what do you say, your history background getting jobs. We have placed people who are doing jobs in, as I told you, one guy, English honors guy is working in Capgemini. Other guy is basically a diploma holder in your civil engineering. He's doing a job in Accenture. So we have people who are from different backgrounds. BCom, you already know accounts. So you already know where you are already linked up with computers, and you are using different applications in computers. It will not be difficult for you to get inside this. And this is the easiest domain. That is why people try to basically find jobs in QA, because you only need to have the processes, understanding, and implement the processes practically. And that is what I am going to teach you. Processes, implement the processes practically, and then teach you automation so that the gravity of your resume increases. Okay, obviously, as I told you, if you are a manual tester, you are getting X amount of money. You have in your resume automation with Selenium WebDriver, that becomes 3x. That will always make us happy, definitely.
Oh, Kaushik, I have a question.
Yes.
Manual and Selenium, what is the duration of this course? Means Selenium
We
and...
finishing up with 38 sessions, 5 days a week. It will go up each day 2.5 hours to 3 hours.
Okay.
Okay. Because I have to teach you manual testing, then I will teach you Java, then I will teach you Selenium WebDriver, then I will teach you automation, test management tool, also then I have to teach you abstracting tool, I have to teach you configuration management tool. So there are 5-6 major chunk of tools plus manual testing plus Java. That is why it will take 38 sessions, 5 days a week.
Okay. And one more question, Kaushik. Okay, how many domains I can learn here? Means in manual testing or QA, Selenium means banking and some other e-commerce and all 2-3 domains are there, right? Here, how many domains?
There are a lot of domains. You have a BFSI domain, banking finance domain. You have travel leisure domain. You have insurance domain. You have healthcare domain. Now, whatever domain it is, testing remains common. You should know how to use the application. That's all. The moment you know how to use the application, testing becomes easier for you. Because if you know how to use the application, your job as a tester is to find problems. Correct? And how would you find problems? You will try to find out if the application is adhering to the requirements or requirement documents. How will you test it? You give negative data, you get positive data. For example, as I told you, email URL, or let's say Gmail username. I will give positive data through which I will open up the inbox. I will still give negative data and try to check up if it is still opening the inbox. In real-time scenario, expected is what? If I give an incorrect username, it should or not open the inbox. That is the expectations. But I will, as a tester, check up what? With negative data, I'll still try to find out if the inbox page is opening or not. If it is opening, that's the problem. So be it any domain, banking domain, or your finance domain, or your insurance domain, whatever domain it is, testing remains common, and the ways to do testing also remains common. Yes, you will have an added advantage if you know account, for example. And if we could basically, that's why I told you, we'll sit down on a one-to-one basis when you make your resume. Understand your background, first of all, and then try to implement that particular aspect of your experience, amalgate it with the testing course that we are doing, and then make your resume. So that it becomes easier for you to get jobs. So definitely you are from the accounts background. You are now doing a testing course. So amalgate these two together to get you the best result, which will happen in the resume building round. Okay, sure. So it is definitely you will get a lot of knowledge. Banking domain means you need to have a banking application in front of you to test it. Okay. For example, you need to have healthcare. You need to have a healthcare application in front of you. For example, I have a healthcare application out here. It's called Everyday Health. If you can see my screen.
Yes.
Okay, that's a healthcare application. So we will be doing our practicals of manual testing as well as automation with this healthcare application.
Okay.
So what I'm trying to tell you is you will get practically involved in testing this application which are from healthcare. I might not have a banking application because banking application is very secure. Okay. You are not allowed to open it. You're not able to use it also. Probably what will happen is I will give you some other application of some other domain, but the process of testing will remain same. Okay. Whatever domain it is. So when we do practically, we'll find out couple of domains, for example, healthcare domain, or let's say e-commerce domain like say Salesforce.com. That's basically a CRM domain, I would say. So we will go through these two practicalities of looking at a CRM domain and a healthcare domain, or a CRM domain and an e-commerce domain. E-commerce we can go through something known as virtualmart.com. So generally when I take up the practicals, we'll go through this healthcare domain side, or virtualmart.com as an e-commerce domain, or we'll go through some CRM like your Salesforce.com and try to give you how to implement practically and do testing over these domains. Once you know that, you know the same kind of process of testing would be implemented in your banking. It is not possible for me to show you a banking domain because very secure they are. They have international laws and I cannot use that. But this kind of application like your healthcare, I can show you how to do practically test it with healthcare. I can show you virtualmart.com, it's an e-commerce domain. I can show you how to do testing on that. Plus I can show you your Salesforce.com, that's a CRM domain. I can show you how to do practically testing on that. If you know that, it's easier to implement the same testing knowledge in your banking domain. Am I clear, Kishore?
Yes, yes. Kaushik, and one more, actually, okay, now I am telling you the 10 years gap is there in after graduation, right? So how many years I want to mention in my resume?
We'll sit down. That's why we'll sit down with you in your resume building, and we'll solve that particular matter. That's what I'm talking.
And one more, Kaushik. Okay, right now after completion of these 38 sessions, how much percentage I am ready to go to interviews? How much knowledge I will get? Means okay, if I
that is why I will take mock interviews to assess you.
Sorry,
so I will take you. That is why I will have mock interviews with you.
Okay.
So that I can assess you how much you are good in whatever you have learned. If I say that no, Kishore, you are not good, you have to again come back by doing a revision of the course that are already been covered. You have to do that revision and we'll again set up a mock interview to assess you again. So we'll have two, 3 rounds of mock interviews to assess you and to make it easier for you so that you can get assessed yourself. First of all, how much do you know? Second of all, you will get confidence enough to understand if I am ready to go for interviews. It is dependent upon you. Confidence is a personal emotion. So that will come only when you have gone through mock interviews. And that is why we will have mock interviews, so that that level of confidence will come inside you so that you can say, yes, I am ready for going for your real-time interviews. Yeah?
Yes, yes. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So next we will go to Priya. Priya, could you just introduce yourself, please?
Yes, I am Priya, and I'm from USA. I have a graduate on biology, and my work experience in the past has been with medical and HR administrator. I have no idea in IT, but since I moved recently to California, I want to get into IT field. So, you know, every one of my friends is recommending QA to get a foot on the door, so here I am.
Great, great, Priya. Whoever has told you to join the IT industry through QA has given the correct approach. That's the correct approach to enter the industry. And I know that you're not from the IT domain, you're from the medical background. You are basically not having any knowledge in your IT. So the training, I will try to take the training in such a manner that non-IT guys also understand it. Basically, it's all processes. You have the same kind of processes in your medical domain also. And those processes are typical to that particular domain. Similarly, in your QA, you have certain processes typical to the QA domain. Just understand the process, implement it practically. That is what our training will be. And then we can enhance our skills by learning your automation. For that, we need to know Java. Don't get worried about Java because I will teach you from the very layman terms. Okay. Thanks, Priya. So we'll move towards Ruchi. Hi, Ruchi. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Ruchi.
My name is Ruchi. I'm done my graduation in 2008. My major was economics. So I'm non-IT field. So I'm worried about is the 8 weeks are sufficient for me to get a job, or?
If you can implement your 8 weeks with practical knowledge, it is not difficult. So we'll have a lot of practicals. To get your confidence, to give you confidence, we'll have a lot of practicals. And that is what training should be. Not only there should be lectures, there has to be a lot of practicals involved. And the training would be having a lot of practicals so that you gain confidence. So the moment you get confidence, you will get the job. Simple. And confidence will come with a lot of implementation of the knowledge that I am going to impart to you. So we'll have a lot of practicals for you guys, from the non-IT fields, so that you get confident and you are confident enough to go for interviews and get a job. If, for example, a person from a non-technical background can get a job, earlier we have also done it, we'll do it with you also. Don't have to worry. So that is why you say 8 weeks. I will say that 8 weeks, basically with a lot of practicals, we'll do it. We will be having a lot of confidence in order to get jobs. And similarly, after 8 weeks, I'm not going to leave you like that. Oh, your job is, my training is over, I'm going to leave Ruchi. No. I'm going to have one-to-one session with you to understand how much you've understood. And that is why I want to have mock interviews with you. it might be possible that you might not be able to give answers, and that's fine. That's human, and human are prone to errors. First mock interview, you might be having a lot of tension, you might be having a lot of inhibitions, how to give answers. That's fine. And that is why with each answer, with each question, if you are not able to speak up, I will give you answers for that. This is the way, I'll tell you, Ruchi, this is the way to answer. This is how you should approach. So it will not be that your training gets over after 8 weeks. There would be mock interviews after the 8 weeks of training. And mock interviews will not be once, it will be twice, thrice, 4 times. Until unless I assess you that, yeah, Ruchi is confident now, she can go for a job. The moment you go for this kind of approach of your mock interviews after the training, you will automatically feel that confidence level and you will be able to go for real time. Clear, Ruchi?
Okay, clear. Thank you.
Thanks. So we'll move to the last person. I can see Seema. Seema, could you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, hi. I'm from sales background. I was working with Jacobs Engineering in India as inside sales manager. Now, a year back, I moved to US, and I got my work visa in around September, October. So, I'm now I'm thinking of going to IT industry.
You've all done your work in sales.
Yeah.
It will not be difficult for you to communicate, first of all. Let me tell you your SWOT analysis. You are in sales, you have done communications with clients, that is what is in testing. So it's not difficult for you to actually enter the industry. Only thing what you need, Seema, is understand the process, implement it practically. That's all. And it becomes easier for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Only inhibitions that you will have is, Java. Being a sales background guy.
Yeah.
That's the inhibition.
The plus point I have is my husband is an IT guy. He can, he's an IIT Kanpur graduate, so he can teach me a lot of things in IT.
Definitely. So it becomes easier for you much more because your husband is also going to help you.
Yeah.
So I will let us understand that let's say your husband is not having time or whatever it is, and that is why you are comfort training. Otherwise, your husband is not training.
Yeah.
I will teach you Java from the perception of as though I am teaching let's say a very layman person who does not understand G of Java. That is how I'm going to start out. So people out here are scared or inhibited about Java or .NET. Nothing to be scared about. For example, if we want to learn, let's say, Spanish, correct? That's a language. You should know how to pronounce. That means you should know what is the syntax of that particular language. Pronunciation is nothing but the syntax. Similarly, for your Java, there are certain syntax. There are certain rules. For example, I want to learn Spanish or German. I need to have certain rules of German and Spanish that I should know. I should know then how to pronounce words in Spanish and German. Then only I can speak in German, right? Similarly, like Java is that kind of stuff, or .NET is that kind of stuff. You need to know the syntax. You need to know what are the rules of Java. Implement the rules. That's what Java is. Simple. Just need to know the rules, and that is why that is what I'm going to teach you. Understand the rules, implement it on the codes. And rules are nothing but those are the rules through which you will write down codes. Simple. When I write down codes, what do? I just follow the rules. That is how I write down codes. That is what Java or .NET is. So don't get worried about it. I have seen people get tensed up with Java. I need to learn Java with Selenium. My God, how is that going to happen? I'm from the non-IT background. Don't get worried up. It's not rocket science. So that is why I tell you, I will teach you from a very, very layman term so that you can understand. I know from which backgrounds you guys are coming. There are only two people I could see. One is from civil engineering and one is from computer science. Others are all non-IT backgrounds. So I know that this group is consisting of 80-20 ratio. 20% is from the technical background, 80% is from the non-IT background or the non-technical background. So my approach will be always towards a particular fact that whatever I teach gets inside your head. Ultimately, you're coming for the training to get jobs. Now, if you get jobs, I'll be more than happy because I'll get a name. Oh, this guy called Kaushik had taught me, and that is why I got a job. So you will put my name in front of others. That is what I want, nothing else. That is what the motive is. So your motive is to get a job, and my motive is to teach you in such a manner that you get a job. Simple. So every relationship that we will have is a give and take. So I will give you knowledge, you will get imparted with that knowledge, and ultimately you are going to get a job. And ultimately, who's going to get benefited? I, because definitely, probably tomorrow, if you get a job after my training, you might take my name, and that's more than enough for me. So that is how we will go forward. So thanks for the introduction, all of you guys. And we will just see this particular slide, and the next thing we're going to show you is when you basically join the training, what are you going to get? Okay, in terms of how are you going to communicate with me? How are you going to put your questions in front of me? How would you see the course materials? Where are you going to see the course materials? Where are you going to see the artifacts, that is the documents of your testing? I will show you that stuff after this particular slide. So this particular slide tells you about what is software testing. Okay. Now, what is testing? First of all, it is done to check that the application or the end product adheres means follows to the requirements. Who specifies the requirements? Specified by the client or powered by the customer. So testing is a simple term. It is done to check that the application or the end product is following up or is adhering to the requirement documents. And who specifies the requirement documents? Client. Or it is specified or powered by the customer. So any tester would test the application by looking at the requirement documents that is specified by the client, and that's what testing is. What is the motive behind testing? As I told you, the motive behind testing is to find problems, nothing but bugs. Now when you find bugs, these are nothing but discrepancies in the application. Why discrepancies in the application? Because that means the application is not adhering to the requirements specified. Now, let us look at two different aspects of your testing. One is WBT. You can see the screen. WBT is white box testing. The other part of your testing is black box. Okay. Now, what are these jargons? White box testing is done by developers. Just understand at this point of time. Black box testing is done by testers like you and me. Then what is the difference? You will try to have that question arises to your mind. What is the difference between white box testers and black box testers? Both are testers. The difference is white box tester is done by developers. So when developers do testing, they will do testing of the codes of the application. As a black box testers, you or me will not get the codes. You will get the application like this. Like your Gmail application you have, same kind of application you will get in front of you. Do you see the codes of Gmail when you open up your Gmail application? You don't see it. So when you are testing a Gmail application, okay, you are a black box tester because you don't see the codes. You only see the application and you test the application. Whereas a black box tester is somebody who tests the codes of the application. And definitely, who can test the codes? The person who has made the code. Who makes the codes? Developer makes the codes. Developer writes the codes. So developers are the right person to do white box testing. But who will do black box testings? Testers like you and me. We are not involved with the codes of the application. We will be seeing the application in front of us and testing. So my concentration in training will be towards a black box testing. So that you have the application in front of you and you test the application, that's all. Our concern as a black box tester is not to test the codes. That is done by the development side. And developers will do white box testing. Our concern will be to do black box testing. These are two aspects of your testing. Our training will be concentrated towards your black box. Now, just to give you a synopsis or glimpse of what are the teams involved in developing a quality software, these are the teams. We have a QA team or a testing team. gets involved to conduct testing. So somebody has to do testing, right? Which is that particular team, the QA team. Second of all, a QA team or the testing team gets involved to test the application from end user perspective. So we will do black box testing because we will test the application as an end user. The only difference between the end user and us as a black box tester is that we will test the application to find problems. End user will not use the application to find problems. They will use the application for their own usage. And if they find a problem, they will shut down the application. But as a tester, we will use the application as an end user, but with the motive of finding problem or with the motive of finding bugs in the application. Similarly, the third point which says that nevertheless there's a team which does testing of the codes. So as I told you, testing of the codes is also being done, and that is done by whom? By white box testers. Generally, this kind of testing, that is testing the codes, is done by developers because they are the persons who write the codes. They are the best guys to do white box testing. Importance. This is very important slide. Let me conclude with this. Okay. If you do not do testing, what's going to happen? You are going to give an application which is a bug, which is having a lot of problems to the client. And what will the client come back with? Client is going to give you a lot of bad vibes, bad recommendations. That's going to hit you in the market. So ultimately, your motive is to give a bug-free application to the client. So when you make a project, you get an outsourced project from the client, you get a project from your client, you are going to deliver the application to the client, or you are going to deliver the project to the client after you have tested it, so that the client does not get problems in the application, so that the client does not get bugs in the application. If you give a bugged application to the client, that's going to hit you badly because the client is going to give you bad recommendation, bad name. Okay, that is why testing is important. Okay, and that is why we should do testing. Similarly, a bugged application will lose its customer base. Obviously, you will lose your customers because you are giving a bugged application to your customer. And customer will not like it because customers invested money on making the application. Why would the customer take a bugged application which is not working fine? Why would an application be accepted by the client which is having problems? So that is why it is important that you do testing before you deliver the project or deliver the application to the client. And that is why testing is important. Third part, to make application as defined in the requirement and then cross-checking the same through the process of testing. Definitely why testing is required? To check that the application is adhering to the requirement. You cross-check the application with the requirement also. That is why testing is important. Okay. So that's precisely that why testing is required. And the last slide is your features of a quality software. What are the features that software will have? That is what is important for us. The different features in the quality software should have is capability. Can the product perform valuable functions? Reliability. Can you trust the product in many difficult situations? The application should be used by the person who is intended to use it. Should not be used by somebody else. That's reliability. Usability. How much the application is easy to use. That's usability. Charisma. You should have attractiveness in the application. If you do not have attractiveness to use the application, why would you use it? You should have charisma in the quality software. Security. A banking software, for example, should be used for bankers. A third person should not be having access to the banks. The quality software should be seen to check if it is secure enough to be used by the intended persons or not. And that is why security is one of the major aspects to develop a quality software. Then performance. How fast is your application? Now, for example, end users like you and me are using Gmail. Now, if I give the URL for login and I have to wait for 10 minutes, do I have patience for that? I will not have patience. I will close the application. So that is why I will have to have a good performance of the application. The performance of the application is nothing but how fast the application is reacting to your requests. So you are giving a request to open up the login page. How fast it is opening? If you have to wait for 20 minutes to open the login page, you get irritated and you will close the Gmail application. So that is why performance is also a very major aspect to define the quality of the software. Next is your IT-ability. How much the product is or application is released to install, maintain and support. Last is your compatibility. How much compatible is your application? How much compatible means, is it possible to use your applications with Windows 7 operating system, with Windows 8 operating system, with your set of hardwares like your RAM, hard disk? Okay, is it installing properly? Is it used? Is it working properly or not with different sets of hardwares and software? So these are certain features of your quality software which you need to have in order to define the quality of the application. Kishore, you have a question?
Yes, Kaushik, my doubt is here, after testing the once application, okay, after checking the one application, developer didn't one more time he's not cross-checked what I checked in application. You get my point?
Oh, yes, I have understood your point. What you are supposed to do is the developer will make the application, right? They will make the codes of the application, correct? So after making the codes, as a tester, you are supposed to test it.
Yes.
To check if the application is working fine or not.
Right.
That means the application is working according to the requirement documents or not.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
You are going to check that application. Developer is not going to check the application. Developer is going to check the codes. That is white box testing.
Okay.
But you are important here.
So after checking the application, tester directly it goes to that application goes to directly user. Means the end user.
So what will happen is developers will make the application. You are going to test the application.
Yes.
You are going to find problems. Correct.
Yes.
Those problems has to be solved by the developers again.
Okay.
So once the developer solves the problem, you again have to retest it.
Yeah. Okay.
To check if the problem is still remaining or not.
Okay.
Understand my point? It's
Yes.
a cycle kind of. So developer will test, will make the application.
Okay.
You will test the application and find problems. Since you have found problems, the tester, the developers has to rectify the problem. After rectification of the problem, again as a tester you are supposed to retest it.
Yeah, that is
Check if the application is having that problem or not. Once that problem is not there after retesting, then you can deliver the application to the client. Okay. Another question from another person I'm seeing. Yeah, Kishore on that. Okay. So as part of your training, as I told you, you will get this particular blog. These are the batches actually running. So I'll show you one of the blogs. So this blog you will also have access to. The blog has certain things. One is the home page. The home page will tell you different announcements that you have for your particular batch or for you as a person. Okay. You can have your assignments out here. I generally upload my assignments in the assignment section. For example, I have basically uploaded, these are all practical assignments. Okay. These I have uploaded for this particular batch. There are 4 assignments given. Okay, for this particular batch. And then you'll have a section called course materials. In this course materials section, I will give you different materials of your manual testing as well as automation. Okay. For example, I have given you certain Java codes out there for this particular batch. You can see. Java code is one of the sections where I give you codes for your Selenium and for your Java. So whatever I show you practically, I will show you on the codes. I will make the codes in front of you and show you how to make codes, and plus give you the code so that you can practice it. That is why the course material section is important for you. You'll have all these sections like Java codes, plus different sections which are relevant for your manual testing. For example, Bugzilla. Bugzilla is basically a bug tracking tool. So how do you use Bugzilla? What is the PPT? Whatever I have shown is also uploaded out there. Similarly, I will show you certain PPTs that are uploaded in the PPT section. Similarly, how does the requirement documents look like? What will you read from the requirement documents? that you will get from this particular section called requirement management. Similarly, there is a section called SDLC, development life cycle. What are the stages in this? All these stages and the description are given out here. So I'm going to discuss all these things live in the class, just upload it in the course material section. If you have any questions regarding the course or regarding the materials that I am putting in the blog, or you want to ask me any questions or raise any issue, you can raise the issue in your questions to trainer section. For example, they have asked questions out here, and the questions are being answered. For example, somebody had asked me regarding assignment. So they had asked me a question on regarding assignment. So the assignment, they have asked me to upload another assignment, for example. So you can put it like that. Similarly, somebody asked me what is the difference between errors, bugs, fault, and failure. That's one of the sections of your manual testing. So you can ask like that. You can question me in the questions to trainer section of your blog. Similarly, you have session links. This particular part of the blog will give you what are the sessions. For example, the next session, the last session which has happened was on March 24. So if you want to basically attend the session, the links will come out here. So you have to click on this particular link out here, then you can attend the live sessions. So that is why session links are given in the blog. Similarly, you have videos. Once you have finished up the lecture, the guys at the back end record the session. Okay, and each lecture, each session is recorded and given as a video. So you can look at the videos at any point of time. So not only you will get the live part, you will also get the videos from the live part, so that you can go and revise yourself. It becomes easier for you. So once you have go on to the live part of it, you can also see the videos out there in the session video section. All the videos. So for example, I had how many sessions I had done for these guys. This batch had around about 28 sessions. So you will see 28 videos in this session video section. There are 28 videos out there. Okay, all the live sessions are basically recorded and put to a video, so that you can look at the videos later on and work at your own end. You will get all the videos out there of all the sessions that have been carried out. So that is what you will get access to for this particular blog once you join the training. Okay. You guys have any questions to be asked? I'm fine. I'm finished from my end. If you have any questions, you can ask.
Kaushik, can you provide manual and automation softwares also, right?
I will give you how to download, because open source, most of the tools that I will use are basically open source. It's not a commercial tool. You don't have to buy it. Okay. I will show you in the sessions where you have to download it from, which particular software you have to download, so that you can practice at your end.
Yeah.
Okay. So I will tell you how to configure it, how to basically install it, how to configure it, how to use it. That is why I will give you the knowledge on the tools. Apart from the knowledge on the tools, I will also tell you how to install, how to configure it, so that you can use it at your end. Clear, Kishore?
Okay. Yeah. Clear. Kaushik, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions you people have? Please ask me. So I hope we are fine with this particular part. So if you have any questions regarding the timings, regarding the fee structure, or regarding any other aspect like your what is the course duration, and want to get the course material, the course duration, all those things, you can contact Mark. Okay. And Mark will be the person who will be contacting you after this particular session, so that you can tell your problems and your innovations, and either Mark will be replying to that, or I will be replying.
Okay. Okay.
So thanks for attending the session. I hope I have been helpful to you to understand how to go ahead with the training. Thanks everybody. Have a great day ahead. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Kaushik.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Kaushik.
Thank you very much. Thanks for attending the session.
Yeah.
Kishore, you can contact directly Mark. Mark would be the first point of contact for you.
Okay.
And going forward, then you can basically, I'll give you my email address. There we'll get all the details.
Okay, Kaushik. Thank you. Good night. Bye.
Good night.